A guy essayed my daughter, so I gave him a beating he will never forget. I went to pick up my daughter from school, like I always do, and the teacher told me someone had already picked her up. And I knew it wasn't my wife because she works afternoons and never leaves early. So I felt my stomach drop and I tried calling my daughter and got no answer. And that's when I opened my phone and checked the AirTag. I keep hidden in her shoe for emergencies and saw that she wasn't anywhere near the school. She was across town near an industrial block. So I drove there shaking and not knowing what I was going to find. And when I got there, I saw police cars and an ambulance, and my daughter wrapped in a blanket and crying, and I knew something bad had happened. And later at the hospital, they told me she'd been assaulted, and that they were still looking for the man who did it. So after a week, I hired a private investigator because I couldn't just sit there waiting while my daughter lived with what that man did to her. And the investigator tracked down security footage and license, plate records and phone pings, and finally came back to me with a name and an address. And I stared at that address for a long time before I got in my car and drove there. And when I pulled up, I saw a regular house on a quiet street, and I thought about how normal everything looked and how my life didn't look normal anymore. And I walked up and knocked, and no one answered. So I knocked again, and then I kicked the door and it splintered, and I went inside calling his name. And when I saw him standing in the hallway, I didn't think or talk or warn him. I just swung and hit him in the face and hurt his nose crack, and he went down. And I hit him again and again until he stopped trying to get up and started yelling for me to stop. And I stood there breathing hard and shaking and realizing what I'd done. And then I walked outside and waited on the steps for the police, because I knew the neighbors had called. And when they arrived, they put me in handcuffs, and I told them who I was and why. I was there, and what he'd done to my daughter. And they took him away in an ambulance and took me to jail. And later I found out he was charged for what he did to her. And I was charged for what I did to him. And in court, the judge said I took the law into my own hands, and that I broke into a man's home and assaulted him, and that no matter the reason, it was still a crime. And I didn't argue because I knew it was true. And I served my time and lost my job and my house and missed birthdays and holidays. And now that I'm out, people ask me if I regret it, and I tell them I regret that my daughter got hurt and that I wasn't there sooner and that she had to see me in handcuffs. But I don't regret breaking his nose, because that was the only moment since that day that I felt like I did something instead of just standing there while my world fell apart.